First, I want to say something is that I believe a lot of us came here with the intention to have an open conversation, an open and honest conversation with yourself and of course with PAP and potentially the future president of Singapore. And the intention for the question that came up earlier, I think another way to interpret that question is that given our experience, right, my personal experience, we've been a recipient of a number of government grants and we've benefited from some. We have also suffered damages from some. And also speaking with at least 10 other entrepreneurs that I know have taken government grants, the general consensus is when we look at the government grants being presented on the website, they sound very generous, they're great, and they are well-meaning, well-intentioned. However, a lot of times the execution of it ends up having unforeseen side effects. And a big part of that is just simply because startups, innovation, there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of risk. And that does not exactly align with incentives of a lot of the government agencies that administer its grants. Just take, for example, government agencies often have a KPI that says, okay, how much spending was there in this industry? And you're going to get your project reimbursement based on that. However, startups want to roll out products at the least cost possible, spend the less money possible. So we see a mismatch in terms of incentives, in terms of KPIs, which lead to side effects, potential negative side effects later on. So the question is, how can we address these issues, and how can the government be providing funding, aiding the ecosystem to bloom, while letting the community have its free reign to do what they need to do? How can we make government grants, government funding projects better?
Well, thank you for your very honest comments. I think these are very helpful. The purpose of this session is not only for me to answer questions, but also to hear your views and like your own experiences in real life with startups, problems which you have encountered. And I think that's just as valuable as me answering the questions. So I appreciate your comments. On your point as to how to make the government money more effective and less cumbersome, I think that is where the weakness of government funding is, because when government provides funds, they come from the Ministry of Finance. And for good order, to make sure that money is not wasted, MOF requires there be KPIs, there be objectives. What can they measure whether a program has been successful or not? It's their job. I mean, this is not something which is bad. It's their job to see that government money is well spent. That may not coincide exactly with what entrepreneurs need, which is a freer reign. And I think this is where we have to try and move towards an environment or ecosystem where there is eventually more money coming from the private sector, from various funds, so that different people can exercise their judgment. When you're a startup with a new company, you cannot guarantee it will be a success. You have to sell your idea to various venture capitalists or angel investors. One may decide to back you, another may not. I mean, it all depends on their being willing to take a risk. I remember reading this very interesting book about the founding of Facebook, Mr. Mark Zuckerberg. Initially, he also had a lot of problems trying to get any funding at all. He had to go around and market his ideas. Eventually, a man called Peter Thiel took it up, and of course the rest is history. So long as there's a government money, we can be a little bit more flexible. In the case of NRF, what we have done is actually not to give the money directly to startups, because I don't think that civil servants are really the best at trying to gauge which will succeed or not. What we have done is actually to fund a number of venture capital funds on a 50-50 basis, but with a very high incentive for them to pick the winners, in the sense that the arrangement is that we will put in money, they'll put in some money, and within a period of maybe 6 years, if they see that startups which they finance are doing well, they have the option basically to buy out the NRF share at cost plus interest, which means that they get all the upside. So in a sense, it's a scheme whereby their downside is limited to what they have put in, but their upside is not limited to a share. It's a very generous scheme, and we have a lot of takers for this. Overall, I think this type of arrangement is much more effective than having a group of civil servants sitting around in a committee trying to decide whether startup A or startup B will succeed, because after all, they have got no experience. And besides, the point about having venture capital funds invest in this is that with their own money involved, they have what they call skin in the game. So they take an interest. The value of having smart money is not only the money, it's that the people involved will help the startup in order to get it started. Because most entrepreneurs they have good ideas, but to turn a good idea into a business is quite different, as you must have realized. Turning SGEntrepreneurs, there are a lot of loopholes. And for many startups, you face what you call the valley of death. I mean, you get money initially, and it looks well. After a while, doesn't seem as if it's going to succeed. The money dries up, and then the startup. That is a critical period. Where the government can help is try and bridge that valley of death, so people can then cross over to the other side. Once it's shown to be viable, is of interest to other venture capitalists, then I think you're well on your way. But some sort of mixed system, I think, like this will work much better than having sort of big authority. That's why in the case of NRF, which I chair, we have deliberately kept it very small so that it's not a huge bureaucracy trying to cover all fields. And we have tried to work through existing agencies, universities, venture capital funds, incubators. I think that works much better. Of course, since we are dispersing public money, we have to take some care. So we have to monitor it. We have to have reporting lines. But that sort of thing works much better. And I think that if we move along in that direction, we'll probably have a much better system of funding startups.
I want to make a quick comment. I don't want to monopolize this, it's not meant to be. But when Dr. Tan mentioned about the TIS, Neotony Labs is one of the 7 incubators under the NRF TIS. And to further add to the point that Ali made about entrepreneur and friendly government schemes, when I first got the document, I had to do a lot of wrangling to clean it up together with the NRF TIS, NRF guys. Great, fantastic. We got it going, but there were obviously some parts that were at that point operationally impossible to get rid of. And subsequent to that, as we tried to get the scheme going with some of the investments, in fact one of our entrepreneurs is here, he's got a personal liability of unlimited time amount and duration, and it's jointly and severally, which means that if something happens and there's a technical breach, even if we understand that NRF won't unfairly go after companies that didn't do anything wrong, this is what I mean by the operational disconnect between what's happening on the ground, and any scheme that involves taxpayer money would just have all these limitations that makes it hard for you guys to let go, but at the same time makes it hard for the entrepreneur to accept. And that's a big problem for the scheme, for example.